Hey guys, welcome back to Wentworth Life and welcome to another Wentworth episode review. In this video today I am going to be taking a look at Wentworth Season 2, Episode 2, Whatever It Takes. Just before we jump in, if this is your first time here, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay then, so I'm going to start off with Bee, who is back to her old self. As soon as the episode begins, she's dyeing her hair back to red, and it's fabulous to see Bee looking stronger and more content. Of course, Bee wants to take revenge on Braden Holt for what he did to Debbie, so when she has a visit from Harry, she tells him that she wants payback for Debbie against Braden Holt and that he is going to do it. Oof, I absolutely love this side of B. Smith. Harry is being his chicken shit self by saying how would he be able to do it, and do you not think that he's thought about it, and he's just making excuses like a little weasel. B comes up with a plan after she receives some news articles off Boomer, and B sees Braden's businesses in one of the photos. So B rings Harry's place of work pretending to be someone from Braden's garage, and she sets up a fake appointment with Harry. So when Harry ends up at Braden's garage, it's expecting to do a deal with car parts. He gets the shock of his life when Braden appears from his pit. This is actually a really intense scene. I was on the edge of my seat when I first saw this moment. Now Braden, he thinks that he recognizes Harry when they first meet, but Harry manages to shrug it off as nothing. Now when Braden has his back turned to Harry, Harry picks up a hammer, but he does end up chickening out as usual, and he drops it off and runs out of the garage. This was such an intense scene though, I flippin' love it. When that plan doesn't work, Bee decides to ring Harry when he's been drinking, because, you know, she knows what he gets like in the evenings, and when he answers the phone, Bee ends up winding him up good and proper, telling him things that he's weak, and, you know, the guy who killed his little girl is walking around scot-free. So this really pisses Harry off to the point where Harry goes over to Braden's place, and then he ends up starting a fire in the garage underneath where Braden is living. Harry then locks the garage. Now, at first it seems all is good. Braden is getting his just desserts, but later on in the episode, we learn that it wasn't Braden in the building, it was one of Braden's friends. Braden had gone out to the shops. Oh, Harry, you couldn't even get that one right. Later on, Braden turns up at Harry's with a few thugs, and they literally beat Harry to a pulp because Braden remembers that Harry is Debbie's dad. He puts two and two together. Now, when Harry turns up at the prison later on looking battered and bruised, he tells Bee that he is out. He wants nothing more to do with this. He just wants Bee to sign the divorce papers. Bee then tells Harry that she is going to sort Braden out herself, and Harry is like, how are you going to do that with 10-foot walls between you and Braden? And Bee just has this smug look on her face, and I friggin' love it. Straight away from this point onwards, I knew Bee was planning on escaping from Wentworth to get to Braden. She just hadn't worked out the details yet, and this sets things up perfectly for the rest of Season 2. This is the episode where the male prisoners arrive at Wentworth to help the women with the garden project, and this is when we first meet Nash Taylor, a very handsome looking guy who ends up working closely with Doreen. When they first met in the garden shed, I knew straight away that these two would eventually end up getting together. Now Nash makes it clear to Doreen that the men will be dragging out their work, so they will be around for quite some time. With men being on the premises, this makes Boomer very, very happy. This is when I literally fell in love with Boomer just a little bit more, because Boomer, she gets Bee to do this makeover for her in order to impress the men, and it's absolutely hilarious when she walks down the sidewalk past the men, and all of the men, they're there woof whistling and clapping, and Boomer gives off this cheeky little, little wave like she's a little bit shy. It's comedy gold. Do you know who Boomer reminds me of in this particular scene? Fat Amy from Pitch Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Let's talk about Skye Pearson, who did first appear in the last episode that I reviewed, but she plays more of a bigger part in this episode. So Skye is someone who is clearly dependent on drugs, and she is clearly on Frankie's crew because Frankie is in charge of the drugs, or at least she's supposed to be in charge, because the prison in this episode is running a little bit dry, and this causes Skye to have a little bit of a freak out, well, a bit of a major freak out actually, because she ends up slashing her wrists and it's absolutely gross. We also have a newcomer called Soo Young, who is Korean and she can't speak any English, so Liz goes to see Kim Chan to see if she can make sure that, you know, Sue is okay, because Sue is terrified after Skye's freak out. This is when we learn that Soo Young has swallowed 2 balloons full of heroin. So Frankie, Kim, Skye and Boomer decide that they're going to wait for Soo Young to go to the toilet, so Frankie can then use the drugs to supply the women. Now Liz tries to tell Frankie that this is way too dangerous, but Frankie is really desperate at this stage and she refuses to do anything other than wait for Sue to shit. The girls even feed Sue a load of cooking oil to try and help her pass these 2 balloons. As the episode goes on and more than 24 hours passes, Sue starts to get more and more unwell. The balloons are stuck inside her somewhere and she cannot go to the toilet, but Frankie still refuses to go and get medical help. In the end, Sue ends up fitting and falling to the ground and it's too late. The bags inside her have burst and Sue ends up having a major overdose and she dies in Liz's arms on the ground, and it's so heartbreaking and also quite disturbing to watch. Liz ends up having almighty guilt for not getting medical help, you know, herself, and when Liz confronts Frankie, Frankie tries to pull up a bit of a strong front, but it does even affect Frankie when she's alone because, you know, she ends up spewing in the toilet and she realizes that she's becoming a person that she doesn't want to be. But it is a real shocking death scene that unfolds in front of your eyes and it was really unexpected. Over to Joan, who is continuing to be her cunning self in this episode. There's a moment where we really get to see the real Joan Ferguson. Joan invites Vera over for drinks into the governor's office, just the 2 of them, and Joan ends up feeding Vera very strong glasses of vodka and soda, and Joan is just pouring herself soft drinks, but she's pretending to be as drunk as Vera. Joan does this because she's trying to get Vera to dish the dirt on her fellow officers, which she does end up doing because she ends up telling Joan about the Fletcher and Meg affair. Ooh, big mistake, Vera. I actually do quite like this scene, even Joan is pretending to be drunk. I love the part where Joan just whips out her hair for a moment, and honestly for a moment there I thought Joan was going to try it on with Vera. Joan also seems to be trying to train Bea to be a top dog, but not the normal version of top dog. You can see that Joan is trying to manipulate Bea into eventually being her puppet in some shape or form, but Bea is way too smart for all of this. But I do love how sneaky Joan is being, and this is only her 2nd episode. This is also the first time we see Joan doing some fencing training in her spare time, and I can remember my initial thought of seeing Joan fencing was, oh shit, Joan is going to be one good fighter, and of course she is. All in all, a great episode with a ton of storylines going on in the mix. My favourite part of this episode was definitely Bea laying down the law with Harry, and I just loved it when Bea is like, I'm stronger than you, Harry. Yes, bitch. Love it. My least favourite moment has to be the moment when Soo Young dies in Liz's arms. I found it really disturbing and heartbreaking to watch, and it totally could have been avoided, but you know, these things happen. So that is all of my thoughts on this week's episode. Now let's hear some of yours. What did you guys think of this episode when you first watched it? Were you shocked? Were you shocked, you know, when Soo Young died? Were you sad? Let me know everything in the comments box below. Okay then guys, well thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe, and I will see you all again very soon.